Alright, what is going on, my dudes? So Nebula is getting buffed, so we got a little bit of info here today, and as always, we highlighted everything you gotta know. Alright, so let's start at the top. About Nebula, cybernetically enhanced at birth and trained to win at all costs. Nebula is one of the Mad Titan Thanos' two adopted daughters and harbors a hatred of her sister Gamora after a personal bout left her broken and reeling. Now she has been brought back from the brink of death and seeks vengeance against Gamora, but her journey to exact justice on her sister may reveal more about herself than she expected. Oh baby. Alright, so we got some base stats and abilities, right? Some prestige here, pretty crappy prestige. If you care about prestige, don't put SIGs into her. I will get into it, of course, but I don't think she needs it anyway. But yeah, so obviously I went through, I highlighted everything. I'm pretty excited for this buff, man. It's looking pretty interesting to me. So, Nebula's mechanics. Nebula's primary focus revolves around her utilizing her electrically enhanced weapons to inflict shock debuffs and control her opponent's ability to fight back. Amp charges, heavy attacks, and special attacks give her various ways to apply consistent shock debuffs and deal large amounts of energy damage. Special attack 1 causes her to apply power lock and power drain debuffs on her opponent, allowing her to attack freely without worry of the opponent unleashing their own counter special attacks. Additionally, amp charges lower robot opponent's ability accuracy, disabling any defensive abilities they may have in their arsenal. And to wrap it all up, Nebula has immunities to several debuffs, and her self-repair regeneration effects make her a difficult target to take down. So, this buff is more so like a value moderate buff, but it's looking pretty good to me, man, for the most part. Who cares about the labels, right? We have 2 improvements to 2 champions, and that's what we got going on this month. So, strengths, robot counter, stacking up amp charges, one second. Alright, so strengths. Robot counter. Stacking up amp charges allows Nebula to negate any defensive abilities robot characters have available. High energy damage. Nebula has various ways to stack up debuffs and deal considerable energy damage. Weaknesses. Shock immunity. Characters with shock immunity will be completely immune to the bulk of her damage. And there's like 6 shock immune. Let's check real quick, actually. Alright, so there isn't like an exact like shock immune list on Aunt May, which is what I was looking for, but it's not a lot of champs. There's like Doom, Moleman, Terrax, Thing. Off the top of my head, that's all of them. I'm sure there's like a couple more. Of course, there's, you know, like Thor Ragnarok shrugs it off, 90% faster. Jane Foster takes reduced damage. So does OG Thor. Nebula is one, right? But yeah, for the most part, most champs are not immune to shock. So yeah, also energy resistance, same thing. They're going to take resistance to the shock. So ability is always active. Advanced robotics provides full immunity to bleed poison, and now shock. That's new. Completely immune to shock, which is great. Nebula begins each fight with 3 indefinite self-repair charges. When she runs out, she will gain another after 10 seconds. Each time the opponent deals more than 110% of their attack rating in a single hit, Nebula will spend 1 charge to gain a self-repair buff, recovering the damage dealt over 5 seconds. If stunned while self-repair is active, it is lost. Self-repair and its charges are immune to ability accuracy reduction. That's awesome. So this this part right here used to be in her SIG ability, now it's just there. So that's pretty cool. So this is definitely a very OP safety net, man. So if you look, let's say you eat like a big 1-hit special 2, you lose 70% of your health. You just gain it all back, right? Right? That's how I read it, at least. That's pretty cool. So shock debuffs. Unless otherwise stated, Neb's shock debuffs inflict 1100 energy damage over 6 seconds. Amp charges. While holding black, Nebula builds up 1 amp charge every 0.65 seconds. Great improvement. It used to be every 0.90 seconds. Each time an immunity prevents a shock effect on Nebula, gain 5 amp charges. That used to be capped at 3 times in the fight. Now it's just always awesome. Each amp charge reduces the opponent's ability accuracy by 20% if they are a robot, so you need 5 to have minus 100%. Awesome. And, you know, perform a well-timed block, convert all amp charges into shock debuffs on the opponent. Heavy attack, 100% chance to inflict a shock. Developers know I try to heavy counter the opponent whenever I can to make sure her SIG ability is on at all times and to juice out some extra damage while building my charges. Special attack 1, Electric Encore. 100% chance to inflict a power lock debuff lasting 1 second per shock debuff on the opponent. 100% chance to inflict a power drain, depleting 12% of a bar of power per shock debuff on the opponent. That's very powerful, man. That's still a really good power drain because there's also a power lock. Hopefully you don't push the opponent to a special 3, and if you do, that's actually fine because it's a really potent power drain, man. So you can really bring them down from like 3 bars to below 1 bar, which is really nice. And on top of that, there's also going to be a 20-second power lock at the same time, which is really good. That's a very strong power lock, man. I mean, if you have 20 shocks, go for the special 2, but I mean, it's there, you know? But the special 2, pretty much the same as before, so it's going to be so much easier to get to now for a couple different reasons, all right? You pretty much parry, and let's say you have 20 shocks on the opponent from your 20 things, you go for the special 2, it's going to be 40 shocks. So each shock removed this way inflicts 2 shock debuffs, each dealing 2,000 energy damage over 3 seconds. Massive damage. Developers note, Nebula's tried and true huge damage special 2 is still here. Try to sneak in a few heavy attacks before you parry to get some extra shocks on conversion. Awesome. This is new, completely new, right? Nebula gains a weapon overcharge passive lasting 25 seconds. While active, Nebula has a 65% chance to get an aim charge whenever making contact with the opponent. While active, any contact with the opponent has a 75% chance to inflict a shock debuff. It's kind of like Thor Ragnarok, man. That's pretty awesome. Developers note, her new ability to gain amp charges while on the weapon overcharge is a great tool for racing up to that 20 charge special 2 in those fights where blocking is a bit too scary. Great point, man. That's awesome. So, SIG ability. Shock debuffs. While the opponent is suffering from at least 1 shock debuff, Nebula's attack gains plus 25% combat power rate. Cool. Extra power means more special attacks for that special 2 or special 3 even faster. So keep in mind you can place a shock on the opponent with a heavy attack. So if you go for like a heavy attack, you heavy counter their either special attack or their heavy attack with your own heavy. And then you're going to have plus 25% combat power rate, assuming at SIG 200. So that's really nice. So synergy bonuses. Self-repairing sufficiency with Nimrod, Ultron Prime, Hulkbuster, and Guillotine 2099. Start the fight with 1 additional self-repair charge. Self-repair charges 25% faster when charges run out. That's nice. I mean, hopefully you're not taking like 4 giant hits in a fight where you need that. But if you do, it's there. Shock recursion. Gaining an amp charge pauses all shock debuffs on the opponent for 0.2 seconds. That's interesting. We're gonna have to see how that works, but after the special 3, when you gain amp charges when you hit the opponent, and you place shocks as well, that could go a long way in, you know, building up to an enormous special 2. So who knows? But that could be very good. That's with Storm, Guardian, Electro, and Black Widow Deadly Origin. Rivals with Gamora, Nemesis with Star-Lord, Family with Thanos, right? These are just little tiny baby synergies. And then Recommended Masteries. Inequity reduces the opponent's attack rating per debuff. Recovery enhances Nebula's self-repair amount. So yeah, this is looking really solid to me, man. Like, all she needed was this right here. Going from every 0.90 seconds to 0.65 seconds. That's going to be really, really awesome. And something that we just have to point out, give me a second here to get it set up. We go over to Aunt May. She has some other external synergies. Some of them are really good. With the Guillotine, it gains 70% of bar power each time it immunity prevents a bleed or poison effect. This can't trigger more than once every 12 seconds. It's going to make it really, good to get to that special 3 faster on like Biohazard, Caltrops. Just if you run the Suicide Masters, you start with almost bar power. And plus, all these champions are good. Beautiful people, just some more block penetration. This has just always been a good synergy for Corvus. This is really awesome. A great synergy for Crossbones. I'm really glad they're adding her here because before it was with, Hitmonkey, Yondu, Platinum Pool, and Nebula, and Hitmonkey was the only good one there, really, right? So that's going to be really, that's a nice little buff to Crossbones, in my opinion. Sibling rivalry here. The first special 1, each fight is guaranteed critical hit. The same is true for the special 2. Cool, don't need it. But this one is what really matters right here. Start the fight with 10 charges, okay? So basically, you only have to build up 10 now. So if you go in here with Nebula, Proxima, and Guillotine while running the Suicide Masteries, you're going to start at just under a bar of power. And then you have to build 10 charges while getting to the special 2. And you're going to be having an enormous special 2. So that is looking very promising. I have a feeling this buff is actually going to be pretty good. Again, we're going to have to see. Who knows, man? On paper, it looks really good to me. I just pulled a 6-star Nebula. I have 2 Tech T5CC catalysts, so I'm pretty excited. Definitely pretty excited. I've always liked Nebula. I've always wanted to rank her up as a 5-star. I never did. Finally pulled her as a 6-star. I would consider taking her to rank 2 before the buff, unduped, right? So now after this buff, man, we're gonna have to see how it is live, of course, but I feel like I might take her to rank 3 if I really like her. We'll have to see though, man, because that fast burst damage with the Proximus synergy might be really, really nice. So we're definitely gonna have to see what that's like. But this is looking pretty solid. Really nice improvement for Nebula. Very excited for it. Very excited to test it out. If you enjoyed this video, drop your boy a big ol' like. Comment what you think about this buff in the comment section below, and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any Nebula gameplay coming to you when the patch drops. Seeing you around.